certainly broke our previous record for hospitalizations, and you're seeing the same thing at Kootenai Medical Center. So our region is really, really tight for beds right now.
The top doctors at Providence speaking out today, saying COVID is stretching our local healthcare system to its limit. He says the strain is even worse now than it was at the previous peak last winter. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us here for KREM 2 News at 5. I'm Whitney Ward.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Mark Hanrahan. Healthcare leaders say this new peak in COVID cases and hospitalizations is likely going to get worse before it gets better. And they are urging everyone to get vaccinated now so we don't overwhelm our local hospitals.
So just a few days ago, Kootenai Health said it is nearing capacity. Providence says it can always make more beds available, but the problem is having the staff to take care of the actual patient in that bed. CEO Dr. Dan Getz said today the mental and physical strain of handling so many COVID patients right now is certainly taking its toll at Providence. He told me the staffing shortage is real across the country and here at home, and he says it's getting harder every day to find a place for patients from the Spokane area, not to mention those from surrounding communities in the more rural settings who are now being transferred for more specialized COVID care.
And that's what I'm really worried about in our community is that we reach the census points where there really is no ability to accept patients from these communities.
What can you tell us about where the hospital stands right now when it comes to COVID patients, and how have you been having to adjust in order to accommodate all those patients?
When we look at area ERs, the waits and waiting rooms are significantly higher. And that is a delay of care. We're doing everything we can to keep up with the pace of patients presenting and the pace of patients who need hospitalized care. But people need to realize that healthcare workers, we're a limited resource. We can only do so much.
And coming up tonight at 6, I also talked with the leader of Spokane's top children's hospital. He says they are seeing more and more kids now with COVID needing hospitalization, and he is especially worried about what the next few months could bring here in the Inland Northwest. We'll hear more from him coming up tonight on KREM 2 News at 6.
Well, the Spokane Regional Health District is continuing to report a staggering number of COVID hospitalizations in Spokane County. 164 people currently hospitalized due to the virus. And the number of new COVID cases, that remains high as well. 216 cases reported today alone. 2 new deaths were also reported today. Governor Jay Inslee said that 95% of people hospitalized in Washington with COVID are not vaccinated.
So let's recap what you need to know now about the new vaccine rules and mask mandates in Washington. Starting today, there will be a statewide indoor mask mandate no matter your vaccination status. Washington educators K through 12 will be required as condition of employment to be fully vaccinated by October 18th. And those working in higher education as well as childcare and early learning will also be required to be fully vaccinated by that same deadline, October 18th. These updates and new requirements come as the Delta variant is sweeping the nation and COVID numbers and hospitalizations are on the rise.
With Governor Inslee's new vaccine requirements for higher education employees, there has been a lot of talk about whether WSU head football coach Nick Rolovich will get vaccinated. Today, Rolovich answered questions saying that he will follow the governor's mandate, but he stopped short of saying that he was going to get the vaccine. A lot of people are wondering if that means that he's going to get vaccinated or try to file a medical or religious exemption. Our Brenna Green says it would be pretty difficult for Rolovich to get through the state for a medical or religious exemption unless there is something we simply don't know about. The state says it will not let just anyone get by with either of those claims as the highest paid employee in the state. So if he did try to file an exemption, it certainly would be scrutinized. So take a listen to what Rolovich had to say during his press conference today about the vaccine mandate.
Oh, I plan on following his mandate for sure.
Are you going to wait until the FDA approves the vaccine to get it, or are you planning on getting it soon?
I'm just going to follow his mandate, Brenna.
Have you talked to any of your other staff members about what their plans are that are unvaccinated right now?
I believe they all plan on following the mandate. It's what the deal is.
Was there a lot of long conversations yesterday after that came out, just kind of with you and administrators?
Not really. No, we had a head coaches meeting where it got addressed, but.
So coming up tonight at 6, we'll have the full report on Rolovich's response from KREM 2's Brenna Green.
Of course, Inslee's mandate includes masks indoors in public places, which means that WSU students will be required to start masking up as well starting on Monday. That's in classes and in buildings on campus. We did talk to several students in Pullman today about their thoughts having to mask up again. And generally, they said they were in support of the mandate and want to do what they can to protect the entire Pullman community.
Well, it'll be really unfortunate, it's going to make things kind of difficult, but, obviously we need to, take precautions and make sure that people are safe.
I think with the Delta variant getting really predominant in this area, I think it could be really important to enforce the mask mandate.
Of course, I'd like for it to get to the point where we don't have to wear them anymore if people just follow the rules, but it's okay.
All right, so this was a lot of information. We have made it easy for you to get that information. You can always simply check krem.com or just text us the word COVID to 509-448-2000, and we'll send the latest information directly to your phone. All right, let's talk weather, shall we? Another beautiful day in the inland Northwest. That cool trend continues. So does our clean air. Yeah. And on top of that, we're tracking something we haven't seen in quite some time, and that's rain, right, Thomas?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I know we had some areas got some rain back on Monday. Spokane, not one of those areas, kind of fell in what looked like a hole, or like somebody held an umbrella over the county, as Michelle Boss had tweeted out on that day as well. But more rain in our forecast a little bit later on. Today, a pinch warmer, but still very comfortable outside at 80 degrees. Mostly cloudy skies, kind of seeing the sun peek out from some of those clouds every once in a while. But for this weekend, it won't just rain, but now we have flash flood watches across North Idaho and northern Washington. This doesn't look like it's going to affect our area cities, rather the mountains themselves. Those steep slopes and any burn-scarred areas would be a bit more susceptible to any kind of heavy rainfall. And heavy rainfall, at least, is in the picture. Not tonight, though. What we're seeing here is some very light showers. Actually, the jet stream just giving a little bit of a disturbance over our northern tier of the inland Northwest, but that's not going to be a major issue tonight. And as for air quality, we're sitting in the good and moderate stage as of right now, but tomorrow looks like a bit more smoke and haze moving through the southern portion of the state. I'll show you why that is going to be the cause for Friday and how much rain to overall expect over the course of this weekend. That's all coming up in a few minutes.
All right, we'll talk to you then, Thomas. Thank you very much. The Spokane Police Department is investigating the Browns Addition fire as possible arson. That fire killed 2 people who lived in the Tiffany Manor apartments.
KREM 2's Amanda Rowley was the first to examine some newly filed court documents. She's joining us now live with what we've learned about this investigation so far. Amanda?
Mark and Whitney, Spokane police are actively pursuing all leads in this case. Now, they are investigating this fire as a homicide after confirming 2 people died in this fire here. But we've now learned that detectives are also investigating this as arson due to an argument that a resident here may have been involved in before the fire started.
Investigators say it is still unclear if the cause of the Browns Addition fire was accidental or intentional. That's according to court documents filed today. Spokane police officers on scene spoke with a man who lived in the apartments. He claims he heard his neighbor, Sherry Vick, arguing with 3 people at the bottom of the complex stairs earlier that evening. Vick is one of the 2 people who died in the fire. The Spokane County Medical Examiner identified the second victim as Peggy Titus. The witness told police Vick is the type of person who kept an eye on the property and routinely argued with transients who trespassed on the property. He also told police it appeared those 3 people were using a hose attached to the building. He says one of them swore at Vick before leaving the area. Now, Vick's older son, Ryan, heard a similar story of what happened that night from the building manager and a few neighbors. He told me about this over the phone on Tuesday.
I heard there was an altercation between her and some people who were kind of messing with people's property late the night before, and it was kind of indicated that maybe they came back and started the fire.
Detectives filed the search warrants to look for any possible ignition sources on the properties. They say there could also be additional deceased victims in the buildings. SPD spokesperson Julie Humphrey explains that investigators are still making sure all people in the buildings are accounted for. Court documents say SPD officers will use a drone and 3D imaging to search the area, and that's because it's the safest way for them to access the buildings. At this time, no charges have been filed and no arrests have been made.
Stand by. Many people have come to Tiffany Manor to pay their respects. You can see flowers here left on cars in the parking lot next to the apartment building. If you would like to be able to support the families affected by this fire, we ask you to text the word HELP to 509-448-2000 and we'll text you that information straight to your phone. Reporting in Brown's Edition tonight, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
All right, Amanda, thank you very much. All right, still ahead, it is time to support local students K through 12 as the KREM Cares Tools to Schools campaign is now in full swing. How you can help make sure students have all the supplies they need when they head back to campus just in a couple weeks from now.
And a little bit later, after an hours-long standoff with U.S. Capitol Police, one suspect is now in custody. We've got more details about what led up to a bomb threat in Washington, D.C. today.